All right. Okay, I'm ready for my close-up now.
Okay, we should be good.
Okay, we're going to try this one more time. Welcome to the October General Meeting. And this is after what, 3? I love technology. You can read on the screen our general rundown, our introduction, our current business. We have some presentations tonight from the Gold Canyon Community Association and Brooks Scofield. Do we have any visitors tonight? Please stand and introduce yourself again. Okay. So Dave and Jean Winchell from Erie, Pennsylvania and South Korea. I'm repeating it just because the Zoom folks won't get you. Others who are visitors tonight and maybe new members. So Norm Beakey from the Cleveland, Ohio area, and just joined tonight, his first meeting. Others. Go ahead. Okay, it's Fred? Fred, okay, from Chicago area. Okay, and yes, ma'am. Okay. Okay, from Casa Grande, they moved here a year ago. Listen, mom and 2 kids, perfect. Thank you. And yes, sir. Eddie Cook. Eddie Cook, newest member, just joined yesterday. Okay, thank you. Heading on, we have officers and board. I'm Claude. I don't know what I'm doing. We have Vice President is open. Secretary is Gordon Rosner, who took care of the buffet tonight. We appreciate that. Treasurer is Alexandra Nachman. She's in the back. So if you have any business, you can see her. Board members, I think we have all but one tonight. Dave Kosho, John Kester is not here tonight. Bill Peters, Brooks Scofield, Derek Youngson. Now, we need you because this is the season of new officers. And it's also today is Back to the Future Day. This is supposedly the day when all of the things happened in the Back to the Future movie. And so nominees for next year, president, we have a 2-year term limit, so I am not term limited. Vice President, Alexandra Nachman, Secretary, James Yoder, Treasurer, Brooks Scofield. And then we have for board, Tom Mosden, Woody Sims, Don Wrigley, Steve Bradshaw, and Alex Beck. Now, John Kester, Bill Peters, Derek Youngson, 2 of you are here. Stand up. Thank you. Are term limited. Dave Kosho, with the confused look on his face, is not term limited, and you're not up for election. Okay, you're not up. Your position is not up for election. These are nominees for board members. We do not have 6. Thank you. Good catch. We have 4 positions. There are 3 people who are term limited. Brooks is going to resign if he becomes a treasurer. We have 5 people who have volunteered, so we will actually have an election. So you need to be here in November to actually vote, but that's why we have the plethora of names. Okay. Any questions? I have no answers. Okay, but that's the basis of the rules. We need to publish names in the Observer, which is part of the bylaws, but we do accept nominations from the floor that night. So if you are interested in any of these positions or whatever, please contact me. We can take care of doing what we need to do to get you put onto the appropriate lists. Moving on, upcoming events. This Tuesday night, astronomy night, Chandler Gilbert Community College. We need volunteers. We have a number of people who have stepped up, but if you can, it would be good for us to know you're coming. So send an email to Alex, or you can email me if you're going to provide a telescope, or you're just going to come and help us with just logistics and crowd control. That's also helpful. But this is a large star party. We have done this for a number of years. Henry De Jong, who works as a volunteer at the observatory, is also an instructor at the college. So many of these are his students. And we get maybe 60, 70 people. So it's a good turnout, fun time, but it would be helpful if we have more telescopes. There may even be a surprise visitor that night. We have a presentation, just a presentation on the 8th of November for the Historical Museum. I'm doing one for the North Valley Regional Library. City of Chandler, that's at the Veterans Oasis Nature Center. Science Night at Skyline Gila River, Science Night for Santan, and an event for Anderson Elementary School. So you can see we're starting to now get events out into the spring. Prior to the pandemonium, we did about 40 school events every year. So it's now, we're now trying to rebuild that, and any assistance you can give us is welcome. You don't have to be brilliant experts as an observer. You will usually look at one or two things a night. The people who are looking at them don't know anything about them. So if you know a little bit about it, you know much more than them. And most of them are really short and they'll just believe about anything. So it's okay. And it is really a fulfilling experience because you get a lot of kids and families, intergenerational. You'll have grandmothers who will come. They've never looked through a telescope. It's just great. It's a wonderful way to share the hobby and to excite people for this astronomy, which is the gateway drug to science. All right, so the All Arizona Star Party has been canceled for tomorrow. Unfortunately, there are winds like 30 to 40 miles an hour. And instead of being blown into the next county, we would prefer that you have a better weekend. So unfortunately, we decided to move it to next weekend. I know that negatively affects some people who had planned for this weekend and have other things going before Halloween. But we didn't think it fair to ask you to come out for a star party that was going to be kind of a disaster. And we didn't think it fair with gas prices to have you drive out for 2.5 hours to have a miserable time. So that was a decision. It's just unfortunate. We'll go on from there. So tonight, a guest presentation. Dave Coward is here as the president from the Grand Canyon Community Association Incorporated, and Isabel Peterson is their chair of the Dark Sky Committee. So Isabel, please come up and give us your presentation and accept the wand of destiny. And hopefully everything works for you.
Your humor.
Thank
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. Thank you for your interest. Actually, thank you, Claude, for inviting us here tonight. We brought a third person with us, Dale McKinney, who is our Parks and Recreation guy. And I am Isabel Peterson with Gold Canyon Community Incorporated. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about dark skies tonight. I know that many of you are interested in that. I promise I will not say anything about why they are important because I know that you know, but we have a little project in Gold Canyon that I'd like to talk about. Let's see if I can get to the next slide. Here we go. Dark Sky Initiative. That's what we would like to inform you about. This is what we've been working on. We are talking about Gold Canyon and Pinal County. Everybody knows where Gold Canyon is around here. We have a few newcomers. So if you know where US 60 is, you go east on US 60 is Mesa, Apache Junction. And then for a long time, there's nothing. And then there's Gold Canyon. Okay, so we're far out there, which is great for dark skies. But you'll see what we're dealing with. So who's GCCI, everyone? We are a small nonprofit. We are an all-volunteer group of simply concerned citizens because we are an unincorporated community. And as we are unincorporated, that means we do not have a town government and we're dealing with the county who is making decisions for us. So we're trying to counteract that a little bit. How did we get involved with dark skies? Well, first of all, Many of us in Gold Canyon moved out there because it's dark skies. We wanted to see the sky, and we wanted to escape the urban night glow that we have in the city. And many people actually come out to the Gold Canyon area to do stargazing. So we're in a good place for that. And I can tell you that, you know, when I'm sitting at night on my patio and I want to look at the sky, I look east because it's pitch black. When I look west, I see the Phoenix lights. Okay. And somebody mentioned that awful park, sports park with all these lights. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, I'm sure, because it's very, very visible. So we do see that also. So we did a community survey last year out in Gold Canyon. We're about 12,000 people who live there. And we asked people, what are your 3 priorities for us to tackle? What should we work on? What's important to you? And dark skies, as you can probably see a little bit if you have good eyes, was number 2 of the priorities. So we have open space and nature. That's what's very, very dear to people who move out there. But dark skies is very important also. So our proposal is this: we definitely want to get involved with the International Dark Sky Association and apply for dark sky status for Gold Canyon, our small little community. But as we're looking at this, we're thinking, why stop there? The more, the better, right? So let's make it larger. So this is our proposal. We'd like to have a dark sky reserve for the entire, what Pinal County calls the tourist corridor. We kind of know it as the Copper Corridor, which looks a little bit like this. This is our proposed reserve area. And of course, with pictures like the one on the left, everybody is familiar. That big light blob in the middle, that's Phoenix. The smaller one down to the right, that's Tucson. And there you can see the outline of that little wedge there. That would be the area that we're proposing, starting in Apache Junction, Gold Canyon in that area, and going down to Oracle State Park, which is not far from Tucson, but we have reasons for why we like that park, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that in just a moment. So on the right side, you see more of a close-up, and up there in the upper left corner, you see, if you go more left, you get to Phoenix. Then in that upper right corner, that's the town of Superior, and then going down the scenic routes there, going to again the little community of Oracle. So this is the area that we have in mind. Is everybody familiar with the IDA and their reserve category? I didn't want to, rattle all of them off as I do in larger presentations, because I kind of assumed that most of you are familiar with that. There are 5 categories, and we are trying to focus on the reserve category. So we want to become a dark sky reserve simply because reserves deal with core areas and peripheral areas. And that's precisely what we have in mind. We want to have the really dark core areas, and we want to take into consideration the periphery. Okay, so this is why we're going for this. And it takes a partnership of multiple land managers, and that's what we're dealing with. We have unincorporated communities, we have different land owners, some private owners, and so on. So there's lots of people involved that we need to get involved. So the ideal core zones in the Copper Corridor that we've had in mind start with places like the Lost Dutchman State Park. You're all familiar with that, right, at the Superstitions. We are going to have a new regional park that's called the Peralta Regional Park that's going to open in January. And that's right in Gold Canyon, Peralta Road. So if you go up Peralta Road to Peralta Trail, some of you might be familiar with, you'll pass it. And since we're talking star parties and so on, we would love to have you guys over there and have a star party right after it opened, basically. We were just talking about this. So we would love to have some cooperation there with you. There's the town of Superior, small communities like Kearney and Dudleyville, and then Oracle and Oracle State Park. We love those people because they're very involved with the IDA. So Oracle State Park is actually a dark sky park. So they got that classification, and the neighboring community of Oracle is actually working on their individual classification also. So these people are our allies, and we like to work with them. So here are our arguments, and they vary depending on whom we give these presentations to. So personally, I can tell you I totally come from a preservation point of view. I think it is an ideal, it's a value that needs to be preserved. But we talk to the county people about the ability of dark sky places to attract visitors. We're talking about astrotourism. We talk about the money it brings in, because some people want to hear that. Okay, so if we are asking for support, we need to kind of spread out our arguments. So that's our first argument. And of course, we talk about how a dark sky region can define a signature identity for a region or community and so on. So some people kind of like that idea. Heritage and nature preservation obviously are big points, and a positive impact on health and well-being. I'm sure you're familiar with some of the literature out there. And of course, it conserves energy. So, you know, lots of different arguments for why it's a good idea to protect our dark skies. In the area that we have in mind, we have existing area attractions, and I'm sure there are lots more, but just wanted to show you, we've got the Arizona Trail. That brings in tourists, okay? And the people who go on the Arizona Trail, they do not want to deal with night glow and such things, okay? We have 3 scenic routes that are designated scenic routes, so that brings in people. And, you know, so there are lots of reasons for why one should visit. Some of you may be familiar with a very, very new project. It's called the Arizona Birding Trail. If you're not familiar with it, this is not the right place to explain exactly what it is. Look it up on the internet. It's a project that started last year, and they're trying to actually spread a network of wildlife watching places. And so, you know, we think that our a tourism corridor with the dark sky region would be perfect. And many of you hopefully will be familiar with the Boyce-Thompson Arboretum. If not, it's worth a visit. Please go look. Okay, it's a great place to be. One of the things that the IDA asks before you can even submit an application for their classification is to show robust support from surrounding communities. And that's where we are at with our project. That's what we've been doing so far. We've come up with a proposal, and we've gone shopping with this proposal. We've talked to a lot of people. You guys are one of the groups we've been talking to. So these are the people that we've gotten support from so far. The Oracle State Park people, they've been instrumental in getting us going. They love the idea. We've got a beautiful letter of support from them. The town of Superior, we met with the town government. They are actually very interested in that, and they are doing a lot of stuff already to support dark skies, but they've never really thought about getting certified. But they gave us how do you call that, a town resolution in support of our project. Then we've got the Superstition Area Land Trust that some of you may know as SALT. It's one of the local preservation associations, also a nonprofit, and they are behind us. And we've got the Superstition Mountain Historical Society. They wrote us a beautiful letter. You guys wrote us a very beautiful letter. We're very happy with that. We've got a small place called the Desert Nature Alliance, also in support. We've got Boyce-Thompson Arboretum. It's pending. We have the oral support at this point, but nothing in writing yet, but we will get that. Actually, the director of that place is a neighbor of mine. Then we have talked with the Pinal County people, and they like the idea a lot. So we are asking from when, this is just pending right now, to also have a resolution in our favor. So the board of directors, we've talked to some of them. So it looks like we're going to get that also. And we have the city of Apache Junction. We just met with them a few days ago. They also are trying to become categorized as a dark sky place, urban dark sky place. It's a somewhat different category, but we are definitely going to work together on this. Some of you may know in Pinal County, there is a lighting ordinance. It's actually not a bad one, but it's not quite as good as it could be. So we're working with the people to make it more fitting for our purposes. And they just upgraded it to a point where it allows zoning within the county. So you can have different zones within one county for lighting ordinances. So that's something that we've looked at and we're talking about with them. And then this is, I think, one of the last slides. I just wanted to show you real quick, both Pinal County and the town of Superior. We looked at their existing lighting ordinances and we compared them to what the IDA is actually asking. And so you see it's very similar to each other. We have 5 requirements match, and for Pinal County, 12 don't match. And for the town of Superior, 10 don't match, 2 are ambiguous. So we're kind of working on approaching more balance with that. We appreciate everybody's support, including the dark sky people, the star people like you. Thank you for your interest. Obviously, if you have any questions, if you would like to just stay informed or like to help, like we need letters of support, just like the one we've already gotten from Claude. Please shoot us an email at gccinc21@gmail.com. And thank you so much for your attention. If you have any questions, we have a couple of minutes to answer them maybe. Yes, please.
The corridor you're talking about.
Yes.
I'm sorry. The corridor you're talking about also includes a large reclaimed area of the Arizona State Land Trust,
Yes.
as well as the Gila Indians Reservation.
Yes.
Are you getting any cooperation from the Gila Reservation? And I know
Actually-
that the Arizona Land Trust is very anxious to sell large plots of land for commercial and residential development.
Actually,
How are they
excellent,
addressing
excellent.
that?
Absolutely excellent. So we do realize there's a lot of land trust land. Okay, so we haven't talked to the Arizona State Land Department yet about this. Okay, but our discussions with the county regarding the ordinances it's a more central concern. We need the county on first. So if the county says, okay, we can give you this particular zone for lighting ordinances, then it's going to be restricted as to what the Arizona State Land Department can do. Am I making sense with that? Okay. And, mustn't forget, the IDA is not that restrictive that they don't allow any light. It doesn't mean, so the categorization does not mean that you can't have any light. It just means smart lighting. We need lights that face downward. We need lights that are amber in color, that kind of stuff. Okay. So that will prevent the type of glow that we don't like.
The cost of dark sky lighting, is there a situation there where there's a resistance from the cities or the other instances to establish that because of the cost?
You'd think there would be, right? However, the people that we've talked to have already explored this, and they said, no, it wasn't. I mean, there is an investment, but the investment is amortized by the energy savings over years. And if you're interested in that particular issue, I want to refer you to the website of the International Dark Sky Association. They have fantastic support material. Okay, you're welcome.
I just have a question on the Pinal County lighting ordinance. You say it was recently updated to include different zones. You mean the ordinance that was passed in 2010, or has it been updated since
No,
then?
no, very recently. As a matter of fact, when we had a meeting with the county, one of the county planners was there who informed us that just a couple of days earlier, this new ordinance had been published.
Okay, because they did, the 2010 ordinance did include 3 zones. Did they increase
I
that to
think
more?
there is more zones now. We had yet another meeting with other people from the county. And so we briefly talked about the dark sky stuff, and they said, you know what, it's really easy now to designate certain zones.
All right, thanks.
You're welcome.
Other questions? James, do we have any questions from the Zoom audience?
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for your support.
Here. Okay, we would like to give you a hard copy of our letter from the board and officers, and good luck. We would love to find darker skies. Right now, we go a couple of hours west toward Quartzsite, and with the issues with Forest Service land or state trust land or whatnot, it is hard for us to find good dark skies on the east side. So we really appreciate that. Thank you. Heading off, and you're welcome to stay if you decide you want to leave. We have some other stuff too, whichever, that's fine. I added this in, beginning telescope class. Do you have anything to say for that, James?
It's all,
Everything's going well. We had the first class on Monday and we're supposed to have the lab tomorrow. So everything's good, going good.
Okay. Perfect. And for the observatory, I would like to echo some of her points about astrotourism. We do a number of private star parties throughout the month. What? Why?
still on the computer.
It fell out of the wall. It goes in this plug. Now is it back?
So, oh, wait.
Okay. There. Thank you. I have no ideas where we are. I need to reshare my screen. I'm gonna bet. I can't get control to where I need to be. End show. All right, James, why don't you stop the recording for 1 minute? So we do need some help at the observatory. Talking a point that Isabella made earlier, we do have a number of people who come from out of town as visitors, some foreign, but oftentimes New York, Chicago, all of the places where you don't have dark skies, and we do, and we have a very good rating on TripAdvisor, so we do have a good number of people who come to view the stars here. And if you would like to volunteer, please see me and we'll be glad to assist you with that. We've had some people leave because they've gone back to college or graduated. So we could use some volunteers also. Next meeting, November the 18th, the sale of used as is equipment. We have telescopes, we have eyepieces, accessories, oh my. And we have some oh my's. James is laughing behind his mask because there are some things when we looked at them, we went, oh my. I have no idea why or what you would do with, but we got them for sale. So here is a deal. It is in person. It is a combination auction and garage sale. The details are in the next Observer. We have a number of small scopes that are good beginner scopes. in mostly workable condition. James has worked to set them up. We have a few things like a 14-inch that we hope to soon be again go-to Dob, and a 7-inch refractor. If you're interested in that for your 1/4 scale Lowell Observatory, it fits right in. So what we will do is this. Come at 7:30 for the preview. 7:45, we will start the garage sale. And about 8 o'clock, when people have picked the items that they want and taken their tags to Alex and Brooks and folks to check out. And then we will start an auction for the large items. And it is similar, this is similar to what we've done in past years, so it shouldn't be new to some of our older members. We put a reasonable price on the item. If you want to negotiate an even more reasonable price, we are open to that. But we really start at a very reasonable price. So we assume that will be the price. For the auction items, we set a reasonable price. If we don't have anybody who wants to bid that much, we are not going to give it away. We'll find another source or something. So for those large items, we just don't think it's fair to say, okay, it's $50 because we don't want to store it. So it's a fairness issue. It is difficult with the Zoom folks. So here is what I would say. If you are not planning on coming, but you may be interested in any of the items that you see listed in the Observer or on our other methods of communicating, find a friend who is going to come to the meeting, give them money, and they can buy it for you. But we really can't operate this as a remote sale. So you have to be in person. Hopefully by now people will feel comfortable. You can find some way to handle that. If you have any questions on it, please talk to me. We'll see if we can make some accommodations. But we sort of do need to be in person for that. Yes, Bill. It is preferably cash. We will take checks if we have seen you before. If you cashed a check for your membership, we think you're probably good. If you gave us cash for your membership, we would prefer cash. You know, in God we trust, all others pay cash. Hope that makes sense. Any questions? Okay, and to announce our 35th anniversary party. Okay, this is another complicated one. It is Thursday, December 22nd. The Riparian After Dark event that has been going on for many years takes place this year from the 9th through the 20th every night. So we are not able to use the room on our regular night. And you would have to fight through a lot of folks to do that. So we are holding it on Thursday, December 22nd here in the library meeting room. I don't think we'll have a Zoom component, but if you would like to, we could set that up and you could eat a TV dinner at your house, whatever. Start time is 7 p.m. All members and spouses are invited. It's a catered meal. The vote was Italian instead of Mexican. It's BYOB if you want something more medicinal, but we don't provide that. We would ask you to RSVP to President at EVAC online. There'll be information in the Observer, but we do need to kind of count how many people are actually going to come so we can set up appropriately and be prepared. Any questions? Okay, I'm almost done. Brooks, it's your turn. Brooks has been working on a really big project as he comes forward, and he's going to talk through that project with us. And then he has some show and tell afterwards, maybe. And then we'll talk about our featured speaker tonight.
I get it to
Just advance. That goes forward, that goes back.
Okay. Good evening. We'll see how this goes. Coming attractions. There we go. There's our observatory. It's been there a good number of years. We have everything that really I think people want to see. It looks like an observatory. There's a wonderful telescope inside. We've got some audio visual outside. It's a good location. And, but what can you go and see? Well, a lot of times there's clouds, but we don't want to see those. People will come and say, well, I want to see the moon. Yeah, we can see the moon. We can see stars. Got a good selection of planets. Nebulae, that's the right pronunciation of the plural, and clusters, globular, open, da, da, da. But there is something that's not there. And basically, I've been asked this question a ton of times. There's a rock that sits on papers, the outside, so the wind doesn't blow them, and I'll have this little face come up and say, is that a meteor? And I'll say, no, that's a rock out of the garden over there. And but we do have a nice small Capodicello meteor inside that we can come out and show them. It's about the size of my little finger, and it's very nice and it's very impressive. But over the years, we have really needed, I think, something more, something that's up to the class of the rest of the observatory and the rest of the things that are going on. So we've arranged to go ahead and get a meteorite display. As a lot of people know, there are three names you go through. There are meteoroids. That's what it is when it's out in space. It's like planetoid or asteroid, meteoroid. When it's blazing through the atmosphere, it's a meteor. And when it's laying on the ground, it's a meteorite. But why are these things important and why are people interested in them? They're really the only solid evidence that we have from anywhere. If you think about astronomy and all the things we hear about and read about, there's only two sources of information we really have. And that's photons of various frequencies from thermal up to gamma rays and rocks that fall out of the sky. Now we went up to the moon, we've got a few rocks back from the moon, and we got some dust from a few other places and we're gathering. But up until a few years ago, there were nothing but the rocks that fell out of the sky and the photons that came down upon us. So these things were really important because in reality, like it says up there, they're the only evidence we have from the formation of the solar system. Now we have the Earth, but it's been pretty well worked over with all the continental drift, the late heavy bombardment, everything that's happened here. Everything's been pretty well wiped out. These guys still have the fingerprints and the DNA of what happened. There's an amazing amount of knowledge that can be sucked out of these things, especially meteors that are called chondrites, which have chondrules in them. The chondrules are those little round circles that you see in there. There's a lot of debate on exactly how those were formed, but it is pretty well agreed that those were droplets of the fluff that things were made out of that got fused together at the very start of the formation of things. So if you go down there and you run your finger across those things, you're almost undoubtedly touching things that are older than the Earth. It is absolutely the oldest things you will ever touch. Meteorites, a history. The word meteor is actually comes, you think about meteorology. It comes from the meaning, it's of the air. A long time ago, things would just happened. There was lightning, there was snow, there was rain, there was clouds, and there were meteors. These were things that were happening from the air. And it continued along that way pretty much up until into the late 1700s. In fact, in the 1600s, if you went around and said, gee, you know, these rocks that fall out of the air, and everybody knew somebody whose grandfather knew somebody that saw a rock fall from the air into his field. These stories were handled about as well as the sighting of a Sasquatch in South Mountain Park. It just wasn't that way. In fact, as late as the late 1700s, Sir Isaac Newton weighed in and said, there are no small objects in space beyond the moon. Well, that made a pretty heavy hill to climb for some people that wanted to argue the other way around. But it was gaining traction. People were hearing about it. There was a lot of work being done, especially in France, where a lot of scientific work was being done. And on April 26th in 1803 in Normandy, there was an event. And a person from the French Institute of Sciences went out and interviewed people. And he found everybody in this town told him the same story. He said, from the men, the women, the children, the priests, the butchers, the bakers, everybody said the same thing. Huge flashing streak in the sky, big explosion. It rained rocks. And he picked up and found around 3,000 plus rocks. And he took samples back and said, you know, we looked around from all the fields, mines, and quarries, anywhere, even vaguely around. There was no resemblance of these rocks. The only thing they had resemblance to was other rocks that people had claimed fell from the sky. And this was really kind of the turning point where people started saying, yeah, well, you know, maybe there's something to this. Well, you go along and you dial it forward about another, 200, 150 years, and telescopes have progressed a lot. We've got photography now has entered astronomy. Comets have been found to be the sources of meteor showers, although strangely, these meteor showers don't produce any big rocks falling down. And so there's some real questions to be answered. And one of the questions is, where do these things really come from? And the advent of radar was really the stepping stone that got us into that. From 1947 through 1951, both at Jordal Bank and with a group here in the United States, they collected data on almost 11,000 sporadic meteors, not meteors associated with meteor showers, but sporadic meteor showers. Found their velocities, watched them, plotted their courses back, and found almost 100% of these, almost all of them, were either elliptical or parabolic orbits, which meant they stayed in the solar system. They found no hyperbolic orbits, something that could come in and go back out. So their conclusion was they come from the asteroid belt. Up until this point, they could have been interstellar. They could come from the asteroid belt. There could be a big troll on the backside of the moon throwing rocks. Nobody really knew. And I got away with pressing the wrong button and nothing bad happened. Stepping forward a little further, for the first time ever in October of 2008, we saw one coming. And we saw one coming. It was, I believe, from the rough calculation I did, it was probably about twice as far away as the moon. And we watched it come for 20 hours. We calculated its the trajectory it was going. So we figured out where it had come from. We figured out where it was going. We said, gee, it's going to hit at this place, which turned out to be in Sudan. And sure enough, at the appropriate time, there was a loud boom. Nobody actually saw the fall. A glowing trail in the sky was photographed by some airline pilots. People went out a few days later and walked to the area where it should have been, and they found meteorites. Probably about the total amount was probably about, that they actually found was probably about as big as a softball or to a basketball, not really a whole lot of stuff. The biggest one was about as big as an egg. That is the first time when we could say, we absolutely know that this rock here came from way the heck out there. In 2008, or excuse me, in 2014, there was an interstellar meteor impact over New Guinea. Actually, it wasn't an impact. The thing came down and exploded in the air and went into the sea, where it will probably remain for all time. But the data on that was not confirmed by the U.S. Space Command until this year, because people get really touchy about saying, gee, exactly what we can see and what we can track worldwide. They don't like to talk about that stuff. Basically, I didn't read the actual confirmation, but I had heard that basically it was, they said, gee, you guys have some really nice data. We don't have any arguments with it, which basically says absolutely nothing about the data they have, but it says your data is okay. And as a final piece of this, this is a picture from Hubble from back in 2010. In fact, I believe it was a Catalina Sky Survey. Originally thought this was a comet. And then they got to looking at it and they turned the Hubble on it. And what they figured out was that a small asteroid had run into a large asteroid and spread pieces out all over the place. As it says here, it was probably, the best estimates are a rock maybe 15 feet wide, hit one about 400 feet wide at 11,000 miles an hour. And every little piece that you can see in there is probably a small piece of one of those asteroids that is not bigger than your fingernail and on down. So are they producing new meteorites or meteoroids in the asteroid belt? Yes, they are. They are out there turning big ones into little ones. And the estimate was that this type of event happens about once a year. Amazing. Where do you find them? Well, the answer is anywhere, because they fall everywhere. There's no reason why you can't go out in the parking lot and expect to find one laying out there. You got an equal chance with anywhere else on the planet. But the thing is that the great majority of them come down are stony and they don't look a whole lot different than a piece of crushed granite. In fact, one of the people that I dealt with, one of the people whose resume or I read, who is a dealer in meteorites, a lot of these have about their history, said he got interested in starting when he came out one morning to pick up his newspaper and there was a rock in the driveway beside it. And as it turned out, later on, he read that night there had been a meteor seen over the area. So he took it down and found out that, yep, he found a meteorite laying in his driveway by his newspaper. And of course, it makes the headlines every now and then. A dog house gets hit, a car gets hit. There was a lady got her head bashed a number of years ago, not injured severely, but gee, what are the odds? But where do you find them? Well, you find them where nothing else is. Where would you really want to go to find a little black rock, a piece of crushed granite, maybe about the size of your fist? Well, if I was going to be here in the United States and do it, I'd probably pick the Bonneville Salt Flats, because it's basically, there's nothing else to look at. These folks that went out and picked up the meteor that was seen coming in Sudan, it was in Sudan. It was in the rural part of Sudan, which there is no built up part of Sudan, but this was out in the boondocks of Sudan, which is amazing. The name of the meteors get named after about where they came, the nearest place to where they came down. And this was named Station 6 because there was an abandoned railroad repair station nearby. Nearby was station number 6, but it was about 10 miles away. And if you ever see a picture of where they pick these things up, there's nothing. I mean, this is a place you would not want to be without good support. But where do most of them come from? They come from Antarctica, because meteors fall in Antarctica. They fall in the snow. They get buried in the ice. They get pushed into the glaciers. They get packed. So thousands and thousands and thousands of years of meteors get packed into the ice. The ice comes flowing down and runs into itself, kind of like water running, hits a place where there's a mountain, runs up. And when it pushes up, the ice sublimes, the wind tears it down, it wears off, and everything wears off except the rocks. So you go along, you're driving along in your snowmobile, and you look out there and there is absolutely nothing that you can see except white snow, and there's this black lump laying over there. That's a meteor, no doubt about it. Other place they come from, Africa. Why do they come from Africa? Most of them come from Northwest Africa, and if you think about what's there, it's not snow, it's sand, dust, dirt, and there's all sorts of semi-nomadic people wandering around this area, and they know the areas like the back of their hand. And when they see a rock that doesn't match the other rocks that are laying around. They pick it up, they put it in their bag. They take it into a dealer, and the base price for chondrite meteorites, stony meteorites, the base is about $1 a gram. If you and I had to go buy one, that works out to be $900,000 a ton for something that doesn't look a whole lot different than crushed granite. So it's a nice little side business while you're out there tending the goats to go and kick the rocks around and then see what you can find. So that's where they come from in Africa. The one I found most interesting was down there with South America. Would anybody like to guess what country in South America produces 90% of South America's meteorites? Chile. You got, it's the only place that's got a desert. Can you imagine going out and looking for a piece of crushed granite dropped from an airplane in the middle of the Amazon jungle? You ain't gonna find it, guarantee it. So you can find them anywhere, but it's best to go and look where there's nothing else. Metal detectors help a lot, but a lot of the chondrites have very, very low levels of iron in them. These are the meteors that we are currently have available for making our displays. And right now there's going to be 2 displays in the plans. One will be one which will be have its home at the observatory. It will have a number of the meteors in it. There will be another that will be a traveling display, which will go out to schools or for presentations and such, which will have a limited number in it. Both will have what I like to call a petting zoo, where people will be able to go up and touch some of them. I think Claude said he already had a couple on display and played meteor right, meteor wrong with the kids. Okay, here's 4 rocks. Which one's the meteorite? No, that's the meteor wrong. And I am not kidding. When you see some of these up here, they are less than spectacular. Some of the stuff is absolutely beautiful, but a lot of it's pretty mundane. Anyway, another thing you find out when you get into meteors is because they name these for the town or the location where these things fell, you get to learn to pronounce words in everything from Inuit to Swahili. It is absolutely incredible. It took me a week to figure out how to pronounce this. First one, I found a tape on YouTube with a native Russian speaker speaking about the area, and I listened to him about 20 times. I found out it is like Dakota, but you go, tz. It's Dakota, Dakota Aline. That was probably the largest iron meteor impact witnessed by humans. It was in 1947. In fact, there was a guy who was an artist sitting there in his window getting ready to draw a picture of the beautiful day that was, and this giant thing goes through the sky. And so he drew a nice picture, and the Russians made it into a postage stamp to commemorate the day. We have 2 samples from that fall. The first one labeled number 1 there fit nicely in your hand. It fills your palm, and it's what's called an individual, which means a piece of this meteor that kind of came off and floated down beside it. As you can see, it's got some nice flow lines on it. It's really a quite impressive piece. In fact, will be on display at the end of the meeting up here if you want to come up and see. I believe all of the ones that are shown up here. There are others called shrapnel, which are exactly what you would think they are. Part of this meteor, but when it came down, exploded in the air. And this stuff does look exactly like what you would expect a piece of shrapnel to look like. There is Gibeon. You know, I'm an engineer. I'm happy when I can spell. My pronunciation skills are found in Namibia, yeah, wherever. Anyway, it's a classic slice of meteor where you can see the Whitman-Staten patterns. These are patterns where if you put acid on to the meteor, an iron meteor, you get these tendril, very linear patterns in it. These cannot be produced in the lab here because it requires a cooling rate when you're coming down from molten and it's solidifying of about 1 degree centigrade per 100,000 years. It takes, they estimate, 1 to 10 million years at a very slow cool rate to produce these patterns because of the characteristics of the metal. And they are very spectacular patterns. We have Canyon Diablo, which is Barringer meteor crater up in Arizona. Canyon Diablo is a canyon nearby. The actual meteor that went into Barringer crater vaporized itself. It's there in the bottom of the crater, buried as infinitesimal granules of nickel iron. We have several nice slices of what's called an in slice, which is etched, which is really a very beautiful thing. We have some individuals. One, yeah, both are iron. And then we have the Campodicilio that we originally had. Then we have the Abapau, which is a small black slice, which has the chondrites in it. It's really nice to look at because you can see the chondrites very clearly. It's about kind of a black matrix and it's white chondrites embedded in it. We have several more stony meteorites, which are all chondrites. You can pick those up, look at them. You can see the small chondrites in them. They're harder to see because they're similar in color to the background stone. But if you hold it and move it to the light, you can see the little flecks of iron that are fleckled in there like little grains of salt. And the majority of those were picked. Oh, there is one that is NWA XXX. That is Northwest Africa. And the XXX says that it has not been officially evaluated and put into the Worldwide Meteor Catalog. So it's a very nice stone, but there is no chemical analysis of it available unless you want to pay for one. And we're not going to do that. The others are picked because they are mainly out of Arizona. There's Gold Basin, which is a very large meteor strew field, which is up in the northern part of the state. There's Franconia, which is a smaller site, which is up near Kingman. There is Mojave, which is in Mojave County. I thought that was another name. Anyway, then we have an EVAC. This is the large stone over there, number 13. This is from the core of something that was more on the level of a planetoid. The pressures and all were able to create this opaline glass, which is embedded in a matrix of iron. And when you shine a light through it, you can see the light coming through the glass embedded in the iron. These things are extremely rare. Less than 2% of the meteors that fall are pallasites or stony iron. And they're really a lovely thing to see. And the last thing we have is really not a meteorite. It's a piece of the impact glass from the Libyan desert. This is a really kind of a nice interest thing because it relates back to the breastplate of Tutankhamun. If you remember, there was I think he had both a dagger that had some glass in it, and right in the middle of his breastplate was the Egyptian eagle with this nice kind of greenish stone in it. That stone was Libyan glass. So that's the last thing that's the last piece that we have listed here. I want to give a shout out to David Hatch, who generously donated several of the pieces in there. There are KD Meteorites, which is Keith and Dana Jenkinson. They are wonderful people. They helped me immensely. They also, after I bought from them, very generously donated some nice samples. Focus Astronomy Outreach was going to be here Dan, we'll talk about why he is not here tonight a little later. I'll let Claude will do that. And the folks at Aerial Light and Southwest Meteor Laboratories, all of which are located in Arizona.
So. Any questions? Any questions from the Zoom?
Yes. We've got one attendee that raised his hand on the left and the top. Steve, did you want to go ahead and ask your question?
Steve. Do you have a name?
Steve, and
Steve.
I can't have explained it that well.
Steve Ent. Do you have a question? Perhaps not. It could be a technical. We have one in the back. Okay, you're gonna make me run. Okay.
I just wondering the black meteorite with the white chrondites.
Yes.
What, do we know what the white part is made out of?
Hey,
What kind of element or material is the white part made out of?
What appears to be light there,
Yes.
that is iron.
So the white part's iron, what's the black part then, carbon?
Number 8, I am sorry. Basically, the black part is stone. It's what has happened is these chondrules, these little pieces of fluff came together. And exactly how that happened is under debate. But then they started bumping into each other. And they came together with other pieces and formed stones.
Mhm.
But these stones had the little black spheres joined into them. The matrix that these white chondrites came into was a black darker stone. So they just show up a lot better. All of these samples that are listed as stone, if you take a look at them, you can find chondrites in there. It's just that a lot of times the chondrite is very similar in color to the background stone. This one's nice because they just pop right out.
Right. So what looks white is really nickel iron and it's been highly polished. And then these are basically like olivine is the mineral that's there. Okay. Yeah, good question. Anything else?
one was asking, can you hold up meteorite number 1 to the camera?
Hold up meteorite number
I will give
one
it a shot.
to the camera. Meteorite number 1. So we have show and tell afterwards.
We'll do show and tell here first. As you can say, it feels your hand. It's just,
Mhm.
it's really nice in the palm of your hand. And the trick is to
And
hold,
you
the
can
trick is to hold
see-
it up without dropping it.
And there we go.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah, how to get it vertical and not have it fall.
Just hold it.
Yeah, just hold it.
Yeah, it's just,
Easier said than
there
done.
we go. Good catch.
Boy, there we go.
Okay, thank you.
Well, after what it went through, that was nothing.
It's nickel iron. It won't break.
I think the
I
computer.
don't think I had it. All right. So if you want to hang up around just for a minute and you can do there. Yes, thank you. Okay, we're almost done. And let me explain why. Our speaker this evening was doing a joint presentation with Brooks. Kevin Legore has a group called Focus Astronomy Outreach. We were aware of Kevin, and a lot of you know Kevin because he's been around forever and ever. He's a rep or a technician with Skywatcher. Really, really great guy. These were shots from the Grand Canyon Star Party, and we saw these beautiful meteorite displays that he has put together in gun cases, so they're portable. And Brooks has gotten in touch with him, and he's been helping us with advice on how to mount and protect the meteorites because he has much more experience with that with us than us. You can see we're building a case that will be like this. So the chondrule that you talked about with the olivine, if you put light behind it, it's like stained glass, so it will glow through. So we're going to have a lighted case, and it should be pretty spectacular. And you have that there. Brooks will show it to you in a minute if you come up after the meeting. Unfortunately, what is happening is that he has a presentation tomorrow at the Earth and Space Expedition Center up on North 44th in Phoenix, talking about the sun and the annular eclipse that will be happening next October up in the Four Corners area. It's about 90% here, and a lot of you are going to want to go up to do the observing there to get on the center line. Regrettably, last night he had parked a trailer in a gated area at that facility. Someone cut the lock. And if you see any of these things, about $17,000 worth of stuff, please let him know. You can see from the eyepieces alone, he has some really big glass grenades, a full set of just about everything I think Teleview has ever made. His Lunt double stack 60, lots of stuff. So when he called me this afternoon, he was very apologetic, but I also know that with that kind of a loss and having to deal with the police and the insurance and whatever, it was better for him not to come. He will be joining us in the future. So next year, we'll probably have a presentation with Kevin, but keep him in mind, because that was really a significant loss to him and to kind of the outreach work that he does, which is really great because he really does care passionately about public outreach. So that basically ends our meeting tonight. Don't rush. A couple of quick things. You don't have to pick up chairs tonight because there's a wedding or reception tomorrow, and the parks folks said they need the chairs anyway. So tables, chairs, just leave things. I had a slide that didn't show up, and I think it must have been hidden, but I did want to bring up November the 8th, there is a lunar eclipse. It is about 3 a.m. So the observatory will not be open. I am not promising I will be awake. But if you remember, November 8th is also election day. Now, I'm not big on astrology, but that seems suspicious, very suspicious, and maybe suspicious to some folks, I don't know. But if you have a chance, go out, go out. It's supposed to be, should be a nice meteor, not meteor, but lunar eclipse. And our final one is just keep in mind all of the stuff we talked about, the outreach. We really appreciate all of our volunteers who help with outreach. If you can assist with the Gold Canyon project. I know a lot of folks live in Gold Canyon, so I think they have a special interest there. We have the meeting next month on the 18th that will include our auction. And don't forget to keep in mind the Christmas party. Before we sign off, any questions, anything else? I think we're done. Thank you. Have a lovely evening.